Well, hello. This is our weekly Bible story time, and it is really good to see you. I hope school is going well. I hope that you're having a good fall, that you're enjoying the beautiful weather, and that you are well. Let's get right back into our story. You remember the last time that we talked together, Jacob had made peace with his brother Esau. Remember that? That he had come home and that he had brought his wives and his children and all of his cattle and his goats and his camels and his sheep, and he had made peace with his brother, and then he had gone back to Canaan where he set up and he lived until his father Isaac died, and then he just kept doing the family business. He kept raising animals. He kept getting richer and richer and richer. And when we start our story today, Jacob has 3 wives, 12 sons, some daughters, we don't know how many, and they're living there in Canaan. Now, in this family, the father had a favorite son, and that favorite son was named Joseph. And Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children. Now that's just not how we do things anymore. Parents try very hard to love all of their children and to take all care of all of their children. But Jacob wasn't shy about it. He wanted everyone to know that he loved Joseph best. And he gave Joseph a special coat of many colors with long sleeves so that it was really impossible for Joseph to do any work. And all the other brothers had to do all of Joseph's work, and they didn't like it at all. Now, on top of that, Joseph was something of a tattletale. And whenever his brothers did something bad, Joseph reported it to his dad, Jacob. And that didn't make the brothers love him any better. And then Joseph had a habit of telling people about his dreams, whether they wanted to hear about them or not. So one day Joseph said to his brothers, "Who wants to hear my dream?" And they all said, "No." And Joseph said, "Great. We were all out in the field cutting grain." And the brothers were like, "Yeah, you cut grain. I'm sure you cut grain. You wouldn't even know." But Joseph wasn't discouraged by this. He kept right on going. "We're out in the fields cutting grain, and we bundled our grain, and all of your grain bowed down to my grain." It was such a cool dream, don't you think? Well, no, the brothers didn't think that was a cool dream at all. They didn't like Joseph. They didn't like the coat thing. They didn't like getting tattled on, and they didn't like the idea that someday they were going to bow down to this brother of theirs. They were unhappy. A little while later, Joseph had another dream. "Who wants to hear my dream?" Nobody, but he told them anyway. "I dreamt that I was a star." Not a Hollywood actor, you understand. A star in the sky. And there were 11 other stars, and the sun and the moon, and the 11 other stars and the sun and the moon all gathered around me, a star, and bowed down to me. The brothers just weren't having it. They were unhappy times 100. They were so mad and so sick of Joseph, they didn't know what to do. Now remember, I said that Jacob had lots of camels and lots of goats and lots of sheep, and they eat lots of grass and drink lots of water, and he had to keep those big flocks moving around. So there was a time where he sent the 10 older sons with most of the animals to find good grazing. And they went to Shechem, which was about 50 miles away, and they didn't find anything there. And so they kept on down the road another 15 miles or so. So they're about 65, 70 miles from home. And after a couple of weeks, old Jacob wondered if those boys were messing up. Who should I send to find out if they're messing up? I'll send Joseph. So Joseph went down the road looking for his brothers, and after a while, he found them. Now they saw him coming, and they recognized that stupid coat, and they were very angry. And I don't know which brother said it first, but one of the brothers said, "Aren't you sick of him?" "Yeah." "Aren't you tired of all his nonsense?" "Yeah." "You don't want to hear another dream ever again, do you?" "No." "I hate that coat." "Me too." "You know what we should do?" "What?" "Let's kill him." Can you imagine such a horrible thing? Well, the oldest brother, Reuben, he didn't want to kill Joseph. Actually, he wanted to save Joseph and bring him back to Jacob and say, "Hey, Daddy, look, I saved Joseph. Can I be your favorite too?" So Reuben said, "Let's not kill him. Let's just throw him in a pit." Well, they thought that was a pretty good idea. So when Joseph came up to his brothers and said hello to them, they grabbed him and they ripped that special coat off of him and they stripped him right down to his underwear and they threw him in a pit. And he screamed and cried from the bottom of this pit, "Hey, hey guys, let me out of here." And they didn't care at all. They just ate their lunch. Now, Reuben went to deal with the animals, and while he was gone, some traders came down the road. And they said, "Hey guys, you got anything you want to trade?" "No." And Judah said, "Well, we do have that slave we could sell." The other brother said, "What are you talking about?" Judah said, "You know, the slave in the pit." And the other brother said, "Oh, yes, we do have a slave we could sell." So they pulled their little brother out of the pit, and they sold him to these slave traders for 20 pieces of silver. And they went down the road, and the last thing they heard of Joseph was, "Guys, please, guys, come on, guys." And they just laughed as their brother got led away. Now, when Reuben came back and looked in the pit and saw that Joseph wasn't there, he was terribly upset. He actually tore his clothes. He was so upset. That's the way they did things back in the day when you were really upset about something. Reuben tore his clothes and said, "What can I tell Dad? What's happened here?" And they told him that they'd sold their brother, and then now they had to come up with a plan. So they took Joseph's coat and they dipped it in some goat blood. And they ripped it up and got it dirty, and then they brought it back to their dad and they said, "Hey, Pop, look what we found. It looks like an animal got poor Joseph." Jacob was so sad. He tore his clothes, he put ashes on his head, and he wept and he cried, and he would not be comforted. No one could comfort him, and he said, "I will be sad until the day that I die." And he cried for his son, thinking his son was dead. And those other brothers with their hard hearts didn't tell him. They just let him cry. I have all kinds of feelings about that, and I'm sure you do too. This is a horrible story. But you know, God doesn't stop loving us when horrible things happen to us. God doesn't give up on us. God doesn't think, well, okay, I guess I can't help that person because their brother sold him. No, God still saw Joseph. God still loved Joseph. Joseph got taken down to Egypt. He got sold as a slave in Egypt to a man named Potiphar. But God saw him. And God remembered that God had a promise to this family. And God had a plan for Joseph's life. And you can never go so far away that God can't find you. You can never be in such trouble that God can't help you. That's where we're going to stop for today. But I want you to know that just because Joseph has been sold by his brothers and become a slave down in Egypt, God still has a plan. I've loved talking to you today. I am so grateful that we still have this time and we can do these stories together. I want you to think about these things. If you want to color me a picture, that is always way cool. And next week, we're going to find out what happens to Joseph, the slave in Egypt. You take care. You do your work. You obey your parents. You say your prayers. Know that God's with you too, and God sees you too. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.